Welcome to What's Left, a weekly political discussion challenging the mainstream left. I'm Eduardo with co-hosts, teacher and socialist Andy Lipson, and community organizer and socialist Kenny Cepeda. Today we will be interviewing Daniel. Kenny and Daniel are the ones who are connected. Just for a moment, though, if we can just tell folks where we're at. We are online at what-s-left.webnode.com. You can find this and any additional information on the episode notes. And if anyone likes what we're doing here, please subscribe, rate, review, and share your favorite episode wherever you found this episode. Thank you. So, Kenny, why don't you go ahead and give us an intro? Tell us who this friend of yours is, Daniel.
Yeah, so I've known Daniel for a few years now, maybe 3 years. 4? Okay, something like that. But, just overall, we've always had interesting conversations with Daniel. It's younger than we are, about a decade. But I feel that Daniel has always shown maturity beyond his age. And the more I've learned his story is, it makes sense. And I just think that story, it's connected to what we talked about last week. For example, we know he has an interesting perspective, because I think, Eduardo, you and I said that our stories are probably mild, in interaction with the cops, or just in the whole experience of living in a community that might be a little bit over policed. And so, Daniel grew up in Sacramento, and I think it's a different experience that we have in San Francisco, to a degree. But yeah, so I think that's my goal, to kind of make that connection. And I think beyond that, Daniel also, if it's okay to share, Daniel, college student about to graduate, last semester, literally, like, going through that right now. And obviously there's many moving parts. So I think there's many intersecting points that we can address, but the initial one is to talk about, his experience growing up in Sacramento. And so, Daniel, can you tell us a little bit of, where you're from and what that is like, in terms of who is in your neighborhood, how long have you lived there, about your family maybe?
So I'd say, personally, I grew up in South Sacramento. It's a very diverse, working class, immigrant neighborhood. Very diverse. I feel a lot of Southeast Asians. A lot of my friends I went to school with, they were Hmong, and Laotian, as well as Vietnamese, and Cambodian, and a really big Mexican population, as well as African American, and as well I believe Punjab. And it's like I said, really working class neighborhood. But for the most part, I'd say it was, for me, I love having friends from all over. We never really looked at each other differently until we just started getting older. But just to backtrack a little bit, personally, my family, we were raised there since they moved there in '96 when I was born. I have two older brothers. Both my parents, they immigrated, or they came from Mexico, Jalisco, San Juan de los Lagos, small town off of Guadalajara. And they came here, and my father, he actually passed away due to cancer when I was about 1. So my mom, she raised us for the most part. And just growing up, it was just a single mom with a few boys. I think we always had a chip on our shoulder, but as well, we always had fun, like I was saying, in our community. And I think things started to change once we became about 13, 14, when people started getting involved in gangs. And I always had friends who were black, or I always had friends who were Asian. But a lot of that, I saw that diverse when I saw that kind of get complicated when people got around the age of 14, 12, 13, when they went to middle school. And I saw it there in my middle school. It's I think the politics, the neighborhood politics, really infiltrate the kids. And, it's all that in itself, just tying back to the police, that's fueled by it. So the politics that I kind of saw, growing up as a kid, where, okay, that person's wearing blue, you can't hang around with them. That person's wearing red. Okay, those people over there, they're from this neighborhood, you can't mess with them. So Sacramento is very divided, especially within the working class, lower income neighborhoods. So it's a very small, big city. So everybody knows each other. Everybody has family members. Over on the other side, I have family who grew up on Paso Heights, which is the other side of Sacramento, and that's basically the equivalent of South Sacramento for the north. Very low income, working class, and it's not just brown and black. It's brown, black, white, but still they're poor. So I think the way they get looked at is the same way we get looked at. And when I tell people, I grew up working in a bar. My mom's a sous chef, so I grew up working in her restaurant. And since I was a kid, when nobody had like time to take care of me, I went with her to go wash dishes just because I was bored and I loved working. And I started working there when I was about 14. And when I started getting involved in the bar around 17, bar backing, um, I would tell people where I was from, and a lot of it was a midtown area, very gentrified area, hipsters, like lots of like the telltale signs that you see people who don't really go out to the outskirts of the city where a lot of people don't go, like the working class neighborhoods, basically, the sides that people see in the news. And I would tell them, oh, well, I'm from South Sacramento, and they would always be like, oh, and it was always there was always a look in their face. And I feel like whenever we went to a lot of the suburbs outside of the city, like Elk Grove is a huge suburb, it's not a city. We would go there to shop, and I'd always feel like I'd get like bad looks by people like me and my mom, just because my mom couldn't speak English. So I think in Sacramento, growing up, I loved it, but there was obviously, you see politics everywhere. Now that I'm older, I see it and I'm able to analyze it. But just like there's politics everywhere amongst even the working class communities, and there's politics outside of that to keep people in. A lot of the police in Sacramento, they're more of a police state, or they're more aggressive, I'd say, or I wouldn't necessarily say aggressive compared to San Francisco PD. But I think they know the areas they have to target, just like San Francisco PD. But I think San Francisco PD, a lot of them are rookies. A lot of them are they're meant to keep the city looking green, diverse, and keep the image up. And I think for Sacramento, it's the same sense, but there's a lot more politics. Nobody cares in itself too much about the city, since all the politics of the whole entire state are focused around there. So the city in itself wants to make sure they're not looking good, so they want to make sure all crime is contained within certain neighborhoods. They want to make sure those neighborhoods are highly controlled. So just growing up, I always knew, like, I caught on to things very quickly. Like referring to things as, okay, this neighborhood is always going to be hot because there's always cops looking to mess with people. Just hearing things and just knowing, like, my family, like seeing how it went through when my family started getting institutionalized. Their treatment, like the sheriff department's treatment of people, especially when I was a kid and my brother did some time in the branch for about 8 months, which is out towards like Elk Grove, towards the hills. And I think really then, like, I started to see exactly how like from the police themselves, how the treatment was different, just because like they treated her exactly like a criminal as well. So I'd say it's a lot different than San Francisco in the sense that there's these huge, very conservative communities outside of the bigger cities or the neighborhoods, and there's like these liberal, little communities within Midtown and the bigger and more as you get into the city itself. But at the same time, they all look at, my neighborhood or North Sacramento or Oak Park, which are the three main neighborhoods that are just historically known for having large amounts of black communities, as well as working class communities and immigrants. Um, I think Sacramento tries to diversify itself, tries to like base itself off of diversity, but like Elk Grove is a huge suburb, like I was saying, but it is pretty diverse. It's a huge suburb for a lot of higher income colored families, but still they try to like tokenize it. So I think when you go to South Sacramento, you see exactly what it is. Like, people don't have jobs, everything's just fast food, and it's just that the part of the city is always fueled by violence. Like, people are always seen as violent. Like, I was getting into fights when I was a kid all the time. Like, my cousins would just normal things that you think are just things kids do. But as you get older, you just see it's like more and more violent. Like, everybody I know, I know a few people I went to high school with who are already gone to jail by the time they were 10th grade. When I was in middle school, I saw kids with ankle monitors on. So I think people get institutionalized in Sacramento early on just because it's easier to target the community. Just because they're all in one area. Like my middle school, my mom, I just got out of a conversation with her, and she's telling me that she didn't want to send my nephew to the middle school I went to. And I understand it to an extent, because when I went there, like I was telling you, I saw a girl who was pregnant, and we're 13, 12, and I think you just see that people's paths are already set. Like a lot of kids, some kids I knew, they just ended up in gangs, ended up going to jail for gun charges. It just seems like everybody I know and everybody they know somebody who's been locked up, somebody who's done time or has been sent away. And a lot of like the energy that fuels the neighborhood like fuels the frustrations is violence. And you see that with just people wanting to hurt people from literally same neighborhoods or just living across the street. And it seems like the state really isn't there for you either. The city itself, just because you just view the city as an enemy. Like there's no help in it. I think it's very black and white for people in the community, and I think I didn't really realize that until I kind of moved out here to San Francisco. Kind of got out of there. Just because like everybody growing up in Sacramento usually says they'll be like, oh, I hate Sacramento, so boring, there's nothing to do. But yeah, I think that has to do with just like feeling trapped. There's nowhere really to go, and I kind of feel like I had that mentality, and I feel like everything around me was fueling that. So now that I'm out here, I'm able to see where to correlate these things, where to kind of tie two and two together, kind of see why exactly people in my neighborhood are frustrated, where exactly they lead, like the paths that they lead, because I see my peers I went to school with, and I see exactly what they're doing, and it's all the stereotypical things that we're doing. Either you're getting locked up, or you're getting killed, or you have a family and settle down and kind of just become a parent at 18. And that I think that's just fueled by the city in itself. The lack of opportunities in the neighborhood, the way people see it. Because it was a lot different when I was a kid. Like I was saying, like I didn't like the city. I was so happy to leave, but once I actually left, I realized like I loved my city. I loved my community. I loved that it was a working class community that was very diverse. And the food, the culture, everything that people are able to bring to that community to make it very diverse. I'm able to see that now that I'm older, but I think when I was a kid, just I wasn't able to see that. Now I don't know if it was just like the neighbor, like not the conditions necessarily, because I grew up in a middle class household. I had friends who were a little not so well off, but my mom, she made sure to take care of us. So I don't think it's anything to do with my personal like economic like growing up situation, income wise, but I feel like it has to do with your peers, how they feel, and how as a collective how you feel. And I think I wasn't really able to see that until I got out. And when I was there, I just blamed everything around me. But now I'm out, I'm able to analyze it, and I want to go back now. So that's basically my goal at the end of this. I think after a few years here.
You guys have any questions?
Well, I'll start with one. So there's a lot of questions that come up for me, but one of the things you mentioned, I think, was, so I'm a school teacher, and I hear a lot of parents talk about how their sons or daughters who were doing well in elementary school, particularly their sons, black parents, Latino parents, in some of these poor neighborhoods where they're once their kids got to middle school and high school, they would say something would change, and I feel like I think I heard you say something about like something changes for them in terms of how they see themselves in relationship to their community or something. Maybe is that true? Because if it isn't true, then don't speak to it. But that was something I thought I heard you say.
It is true. I think it's something that happened in my family. My brother was a straight A student up until 7th grade. He did really well in school. He was a huge introvert. He's a lot bigger than me, but he's 30 now. So he's 7 years older than me. And I always looked up to him just because I never really had a father, and it was always cool to tag along with him. So I kind of saw that happen like around 8th grade. And I totally understood because once I went to the same school, I saw exactly how it was. I think at 8th grade, I don't know necessarily if it was how he dealt with like not having a father. Because I think within relation, all three of my brothers, we all deal with it differently just because one of them's 36 and he had his father. The other one had him for a few years and I just never knew him. So, I think that has something to do with it, but as well, it targets at the bigger issue of just not having people to steer you, on the correct path. Just having a parent who works a lot, and then just wanting to feel belonging. It's super corny. It reminds me of a movie called American Me. It's basically about like the Mexican mafia, Edward James almost, and he in one of the scenes, it's like belonging feels good, but having respect even feels better. And it's like, it's true. It's true. Like belonging feels good, but then like the respect of your peers and the acceptance, like it all has to do with belonging and getting accepted. But that has something to do with it. I think the lack of role models, the lack of people who actually go to school and graduate with a college degree and move back to the neighborhood and contribute something good rather than just go far away and don't really aren't really role models, or can't show them that that it's easier, that's possible. I think that's why I never knew really anybody in college, and I kind of looked at it. This is like 2000, 2010, 2009 when I was in middle school, and that was like the recession. Everybody I knew they didn't have a job. I remember my siblings, just having a hard time trying to find a job. All my uncles were in construction, and that just collapsed. So a lot of them were like out on the boat. So I think I saw it around me. I saw everybody was struggling. So especially in those times, turning to crime, turning to something that actually works. I think people aren't unaware, or they're aware of the atrocities that like cities commit, taking advantage of people. People are aware of these things, but specifically people who for me, like my family, they immigrate. My mom, she's used to it in Mexico. Everybody from Mexico is used to the state being very oppressive, being just corrupt. So you know not to trust them or rely on them. And I think a lot of people, I can't fully speak for them, but a lot of my friends who are Southeast Asian, a lot of their parents had just come from countries that just gotten out of wars. A lot of my young friends, like their parents had seen some crazy stuff. They would tell me about it, and it's just like a lot of them, the guys would go to gangs, and the girls would go to school. Like that was the common notion that people would always push. They would always say, well, the boys they're bad, they're gonna go to jail, and the girls are gonna go off to college. And a lot of like what they expressed to me was just like like a lot of my Hmong friends, like I was saying, they I believe during the Vietnam War when I studied it for a bit, but I don't want to speak to the full extent of it. But I know they were one of the groups that were persecuted once. I think they were just persecuted in the region just because they're nomadic people, I believe. And yeah, so you have all these other people who are coming from not corrupt governments like my family from Mexico, but running from like wars and atrocities, genocides, whether it be like Cambodia, they all come into the same neighborhood, and they're thrown in a pit with like us, and I hate to say pit, but that's how it feels.
Mm-hmm.
They're thrown in the pit with us, and then like African Americans, they've been attacked by Sacramento, the city of Sacramento. For all my life I've known there. I know that the Sacramento police they are horrible when it comes to their policing in my community, and I think I've seen videos, I've seen times with people just all over, whether it be social media or just like kids I knew when I was growing up, just going through things. And like a few weeks ago, I saw a video of a police officers harassing 13, 12-year-old kids. I actually sent it to Ken. It was like a few months ago before this whole corona thing. because they fit the profile and they pull the guns out to kids, and it's right by the middle school I went to, and it's a McDonald's me and my friends would go to all the time, but it's nothing new, and I think when you're just thrown in that environment, I think kids are gonna go to gangs a lot quicker, just because you feel threatened too by your peers, by the people. You're not really in a community because nobody's really making money. Everybody's struggling, and there's so many differences that people aren't able to settle on. So I feel like when kids go to middle school, they just face with that. There was like riots at my middle school. There was always race riots. There always be the monk kids which were a part of like MLD or Asian Crips, and versus with like the Serranos versus the Norteños and all the Bloods and Crips and like the Tongan Crips. And it would just be riots. Like they have to like call like the school police, because we had a school police officer for like a few in middle school. And then even when I was a kid, all my cousins, they went to the high school I was supposed to go to, and there was always riots. They would always tell me about it. My friend got beat up. There was always huge riots, and it was always race related. It was always either race related or gang related. And I feel like that environment and just not having anybody to really tell you like, hey, like this school stuff can go beyond, it can take you beyond where you think you can, or like telling them that there's other opportunities out there. Just not being able to see anything. I think middle school is like just smack in the face, and I think you just want the puberty, and there's so much going on that like middle school. I see it. Like I've seen kids who are like straight A students just like become like hard, like bona fide like. I don't want to say like thugs or criminals, but just like street cats, And I grew up with these kids, and it's just funny to see. Like it's just crazy to see. It's not funny like haha, but just funny, and it's like I can't believe it,
Mm-hmm.
So I think middle school is for sure. Gangs are already infiltrated in it. Just having a police officer. That's where you go to school and you have a police officer. That's where you see it. Middle school. I think at elementary school you see them come by, and but they're not really there. Like middle school, they're there, and the police officer, who they are, like, who the principals are, who's gonna get you in trouble. Like the school officials, we would always like refer to, who would be like. But now that I think about it, we look at them the same way we look at like a cop. Just because there was always like that one school official, like that would always try to criminalize us. Like I had a toothpick in my mouth, and he was like, "Take that out." Kind of smoke a cigarette, and I was like, "I don't even smoke cigarettes. I've never smoked a cigarette." And he was like, "Take that out. Like, you kind of look like you smoke a cigarette." So I'm like, "No, I just like chemo things." Like these innocent things are all like super criminalized, and that all happens in like middle school or like 6th, 5th grade. Mm-hmm. So I think middle school is a huge. I think there it has to be at that. I have to look at that exact neighborhood, but for me, like my neighborhood, I see it in the city too. I can understand why kids in the city are like that too. But yeah, middle school for sure. You get institutionalized.
Daniel, if I may, I have a question.
Oh yeah.
What you said that something changed for you when you moved here to San Francisco. What changed for you? I don't know Sacramento the way that you know Sacramento. But I'm curious how, because I did go to high school here, and my experiences here sometimes sound similar to how there was some very race division sometimes, and as well as growing up in the missions, there were that north and south rivalry of gangs. So I'm curious, what changed for you here in San Francisco? You said there's a difference, so something changed for you.
I think it's just the way the city is. Like neighborhoods over here, it's just super gentrified. So I think the pressure of just being like a young, I still have that pressure of just being like a young brown male or black male, whatever. Just like being a young person of color, I think there's a pressure on you just because the way when I go to downtown Sacramento, the way people look at me, I always felt like I was looked at the same, and I still feel the same here in San Francisco. I just think a lot of the pressures of my neighborhood are lifted, as well as my family. Just like I was saying, it's like a single family I grew up in. My brother, he has 2 kids, and fortunately he's not fit to take care of them. My mother has custody of them. So, just feeling like I wanted to stay back home and help my family. I think that's like my personal my personal the personal things in my life that were kind of holding me back aside from my neighborhood. It's just like feeling like I had to stay home to help my family instead of going to school. And I just felt like I could be a lot more help over there than over here. But as well, I understood that, I kind of need to get out in order for me to grow. Because I think staying home would result in me just not being able to grow in like the things I do and the things I want to do. And then as well, just being around like the same people. And traveling was something that I always looked at as, like me and my friend, my cousins will always be like, oh man, that's like some white people shit. Because the only traveling like I knew people doing was when they're coming over here from Mexico, or they got deported, or like somebody died, and we had to go back to Mexico, and that happened when I was a kid. And, like my deals and everything, they had to come back illegally, and I think the family pressure is like one thing that was huge on me, but as well, I think the neighborhoods is just I still have like I always have like terms like that we would say like keep your head on the swivel because like it refers to like football when we used to play football and just always like looking out over your shoulder like keep like looking out for cops, looking out for somebody that might rob you. I think coming out here, I think I had less of that pressure than back home just because I knew how back home was. I think over here there's not as much gang politics as over there. Within brown communities, there is, but in Sacramento, there's a lot of gang politics that not only revolves around brown communities, but black communities, and it's a lot more intense over there, and it's very correlated with Sacramento County, like their correctional system. It's all correlated with that, and then like the branch and all that. It's all like the gangs and everything. They all correlate back to the branches, like getting locked up, basically. And I think just getting out here, there's a lot more sense of, I think, freedom, just, from the pressure of just thinking that somebody's, always having your head over your shoulder. I don't have to really do that in North Valley. Like even in Outer Mission, like, I do in Outer Mission, actually. I live in Outer Mission, but I think I do just because I talk to my coworkers and they tell me, like, oh, people get shot, like, smoking in their car. Because I smoke outside in my car just because my landlord, they don't allow smoking in the backyard or here. So I go out and smoke in my car. Yeah, I always, like, have my head over my shoulder. So I still feel it over here. I think now I'm just used to it. And I think when I left Sac, like, the family pressure, being out somewhere new, and it's not the same, like, just, like, city-wise. Like, Sac is super spread out. If you don't got a car, life kind of sucks. Here, like, you don't need a car. I was taking the bus at 4 a.m. when I first came here, going around on the 91 out, going to my job over there in Soma, super early. So it was like, it's a totally different experience, And my mom, I was a mama's boy too, so my mom kept me. She saw where my brothers led it, and, she didn't want that for me. And my brothers took different routes, and, I kind of saw how that played out for them. And I kind of saw what they went through, or what they put my mom through. So I think with me, I was a little bit more. Once I actually like got a little bit older and I started working and taking care of myself, I kind of realized I kind of stayed out the way of like trouble. Or I tried to just like watch myself and be a little bit more responsible, just because I felt like people were depending on me.
Daniel, you said you had to look over your shoulder many times. Why? Have you had running with the police? Have you had experiences that made you feel that you had to look over your shoulder?
Running with the police? No, it was just like always visiting my brothers. It was always seeing like my siblings basically. They're running with the police. And they're like my brothers. One of my brothers, he was. I remember one day he was driving and he's always had like we call him Yonkers, like he's like trash, like pick and pull cars. He was always working on like some junk car, but it was always cool. And he was driving with his kids towards my mom's house, and we had been living there been living in the same house for 20, 23 years, 24 years, and he was driving down like the narcs or the undercovers. They pulled him over, and they were looking for like meth. They they were looking for meth or something. And they had like ripped his whole car apart, and they saw he didn't have a license or anything. The kids didn't have a seat belt or anything, but they just let him go because they were just looking for that. They just like profiled him and were looking for that. Like he's never been into anything like that. So they just ripped his whole car apart, like seats and everything, and they just let him go. They were like, "Oh, let's go." They, like nonchalant. They didn't really apologize for anything. And I know my brother wasn't driving. Like he should have been. He should have had his license. He should have had car seats. But still, they kind of just pulled him over for that. That was it. Just because he looked like he fit the description. As well, like I was saying, like my personal interactions, like the ones that I have had, they've all been like when I was visiting my brothers in jail, and it was always the same. Like I said earlier, like just like treating us like criminals too, and I think it's hard to remember considering it's been since I was 12, 13. And I think just looking over your shoulder because it's just so many times people like jumped out on me or tried to run the bike or asked me where I was from, what I banged, and that was always the case. Like when I was young, my brother, he himself, my middle brother, he got involved in gangs when he was in high school, and he picked me up from our elementary school one day on the pegs. I was on the pegs of the bike riding home, and he had gotten some trouble at school. He got into a few fights with some dudes from another gang, and they pulled up beside us as we were driving, and we were riding the bike in the same direction. They were driving right behind us, and they just like roll down the windows. It's a truck full of deep like four guys, and my brother's like riding the bike, and they like talking shit to him, and or sorry, and he was like talking smack back, and then they pulled out a gun, and then at that moment my brother's like hop off, run, because my cousin lived right around the corner from us, so we go and like I hop off, and they just keep driving because there's traffic behind them, and like we're just riding, and I'm just running like as fast as I can, and we get to my cousin's house. My cousin, like, he lives right around the corner. So my cousin, she opens the door, and my brother just grabs like a baseball bat, and he's like, it's a separate neighborhood, so they probably dipped off, but he was like, go walk, because he was like, they're not gonna mess with you. Like he basically sent me out to be a scout to see if the coast was clear. And I just remember, I just remember like listening to my brother because I was like, okay, he knows what he's doing because I don't want him getting shot. Or, I was just thinking about myself, but at the same time, I didn't think they would shoot a little kid. I was like 8, 9 years old. And I just remember that, like, those type of incidents, like, just, like, always made me, like, wary of just, like, and things like that always happen. So it was always something, like, you were always, like, looking over your shoulder. You were always just, like, whether it was the cops, because even then, I still look over my shoulder with the cops because it's just like, I know they'll pull me over for anything. Everybody's breaking the law to an extent. It just depends if they want to mess with you out there or not. And like, I've seen that happen. So I think it's just like the police and gangs and people I'd be wearing a tie-dye shirt and people would jump out on me and be like, oh, where you from? It's like, obviously I'm not a gangbanger. Like, I'm wearing green. Come on, guys. But it doesn't matter. It has to do more with your skin tone than anything, and the neighborhood you're in.
It sounds to me almost like the cops themselves are another type of gang.
Yeah, basically, that's basically how it's viewed. Because once you go into the county, who do you got? It's the same exact thing. You got the sheriffs, and you got every other gang. You're housed by gang. Like everybody, it's the way it works is just like. It's just like they're another gang, complete. It's basically, I think in Sac they're just they're a lot more aggressive, and none of them live there. I've never known a police officer or a sheriff in Sacramento to live in South Sacramento. They had a whole article about it too, a few months ago, or a few years ago actually. Like nobody who polices that neighborhood lives there. They all live in like Auburn. They're like these super small communities that are super conservative for the most part, aren't really diverse. And if they are diverse, they're usually like the farming communities like Lodi or like Galt that are super, in the middle, brown and white, and the majority of the brown people all work in the field, or work for some type of farming or agriculture.
So, did you say that you yourself did or did not choose to get into a gang?
Nah, I was like trying to be like a baby gangster. You know, when I was younger, I used to dress like it. I hung out with the kids, and it really, I grew out of it in high school, really, and I think that had to do with just me leaving the neighborhood. I went to school in Elk Grove. My mom sent me there just because my brother had been, one of my brothers dropped out, and then the other one had got kicked out for fighting there, and because of gangs. So, we just had a horrible history at the neighborhood school, and the other neighborhood school was called Burbank, but it was called Blood Bank just because it was just known to be. It was I'd say it's same thing as my neighborhood high school, but it had a nickname called Blood Bank just because there was a incident in the '90s where a teacher had gotten out of their car and was killed in the drive-by shooting in the parking lot. So that's where it got its nickname, and just a lot of the gangs that originated from that area, and just kind of took over the neighborhoods or the local neighborhoods around there.
And,
Oh, go ahead.
and what would you say are the reasons? So it sounds like obviously there's violence between gangs. There's violence with the police coming in on that. But what would you say are the reasons a young person is going to make a choice to get involved in a gang at that time? Like what are they looking for? And what were some of the things that actually were like good about being in that situation?
I think the community, like I was saying earlier, the feeling of belonging, respect, community. I think all those things are things that draw people in, and I think a lot of it too, you're kind of forced in. I just having siblings who are part of this game, you can't really join the other game. And, my brother told me, he was a good older brother. He told me, he was like, you join the game and whoop your ass. So he kind of knew that he joined it, but he didn't want that for me or want to be the reason why I'm in it. And I think I think the good reasons is like community. I think understanding. When it comes to the police, there's no understanding. A lot of those, police are usually, like I was saying, they don't live in our neighborhoods. They don't understand us. Like you were saying in the episode you were talking about. I believe it was not. It was this past one, yeah, actually, on the police state about Eduardo's interaction about people having a sideshow, and like you were talking about, people were like, oh, they should have the National Guard come out, and it's just like that type of like lack of understanding, and that's why people like stay within their communities and usually join gangs because it's all they know, and at least those people understand that things such as like sideshows and just having like these fancy cars and having like really loud music, like subwoofers in our trunk. Like that's something I love. Like that's what I got for my first car. I got a huge subwoofer in my trunk. Just roaring down the neighborhood and like hearing the earth tremble. Like that's just something we like, and that's a cultural thing, and that's just something that we liked. And when everybody else looked at us, it was always a criminalization of it. Like I understand it may not be like safe, like sideshows may not be safe, as well as playing loud music might not be good for our ears, but it just spoke to the bigger, the root cause of that. Just a lack of understanding and more of just a criminalization of a certain type of people. It's something very silly and something very very childish, swinging a car, playing very loud music. But it's those little things that if a person can't understand, if a person from another culture can listen to loud rock music that's about the devil, I don't care to each their own, but look at ACDC, like it's nothing, and then look at us and be like, oh, you're the devil, criminalize, So I think that whole issue right there is, and then that's like the root cause of, or more of like the umbrella for all those issues. So I think it's just like a lack of understanding, and if people around you can understand you, and you don't really have to go outside your comfort zone. And I think joining a gang is just the money. There's so many things that come with it that people look to, and like I was saying, the role model thing is one of the biggest ones. I can't come back to my neighborhood with a college degree and say, I'm gonna educate you, or I'm gonna show you what a role model is. I can't come back that way because they're just gonna look at me as somebody who's not a part of the community. I know it sounds weird, but it's just like the approach. It's like the white savior approach, or like the savior approach. And you can't come back to a neighborhood like that, or your neighborhood like that, just because you're looked at as an outsider now. There needs to be like a bridge. And when you isolate communities and you just keep them there, and the police or that barrier basically isolate that community as well as all the institutional aspects, and the lack of opportunities, and role models, you basically just barricade those people in. And I know friends I've met from Southern California who are from Los Angeles, and they're from inner city neighborhoods, and they've never seen the beach. I know people in South Sacramento who've never. My brother, he never. When we finally got out the city, we never traveled. When he finally got out the city, we went to a Raider game, and he didn't feel safe. He had to bring a gun with him. So he has that mentality 24/7. And it's just like not leaving your neighborhood and knowing that something can always happen to you. Or, you can always get messed with by the police. It's always that overlying is always there. So you're always encompassed within that. And that's what it really made me really open my eyes when we left the city and we went to Oakland. We were like, wow, this is what we have to do. Or this is what you have to do, or you feel like you have to do to leave home or get out of your neighborhood.
Some of the things that I was kind of thinking about when you were saying, the sideshows and all these things, the way I think about it is coping mechanisms, because you're kind of in a war zone, it's like PTSD, watching your back, you left your city and you have to, your brother brought a gun, you yourself got to San Francisco and you're still looking around. And I kind of relate to some of that stuff, growing up in the mission when norteños and sureños was a thing. And I got beat up and I spent a month without going out, because I didn't want to join a gang. So it's and I call the cops and they take your statement and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if anything, they might stop you or follow you next time, and so, yeah, that's it's very interesting, but.
I think it's interesting. I'm curious if there are if your experience, maybe college or just outside of college, you have been sort of radicalized politically. What do you think of our current political state? It doesn't have to necessarily be about the White House necessarily, just in general. It could be about what you think, what is happening around the world, and especially here locally. If your experiences somehow how do you see the world politically, given your experiences?
I think my experiences politically, I think they're always steered a little bit more on the left since I was a lot younger. I always talked to one of the bartenders who would close because I was working with a fake social because when I was 14, so I just carried that job until I was 22 or 21 because I was going back there during college to work, and we would always talk. One of the bartenders, he majored in psychology at UC Davis, and he had mastered in it, and he was a super dope dude. I love him. His name is Johnny. We would talk, and I was around 18, and I was really just starting to read. And I was reading Malcolm X biography, and around Malcolm X was my main reading that I kind of based my ideology upon at that time. Just because I really just fell in love with his story, and I would always joke with my bartender and tell him, I was like, man, if I was actually reading Che Guevara as well. I was reading his biography as well, and I would always tell the bartender, I was like, man, I'm gonna start a revolution, but if I'm not dead by 30, that usually means that I was doing something wrong, because they always kill the revolutionary leaders, and so I always had that. It was a joke, but I always had that mentality, more towards community, and I'd say you say the left, and it just kind of grew in college, especially at SF State, with ethnic studies, and it was weird because I'm a business major, and everybody in my major is usually I wouldn't say necessarily say shallow, but the way they view everything is from a business standpoint. And I viewed it as well, but I was always viewing it as how can I start my own business to help my community, instead of how can I land this big job with this firm. So I think just in college, it's kind of just it shaped my view, but it was just working in the city. I've been working two jobs the whole time I've been in school. When I first started here, I was waking up at 4 a.m. to work. What was it? What do they call it? Barista shift at a coffee shop in the Cal train station in Selma, right down 14th King. And I was working there, and I was just always working. And when I finally got two jobs, I was either working like 50 hours to like 30 hours on my lower week. But I remember at the time I was working 50 hours, and I was just always working. And I feel like that kind of like that gave me a lot of room to learn from everybody around me, all the people that were working, because I've always been working with people who are always older than me. And I've always been able to take like their stories, or kind of what they went through or what they were going through, and kind of just like connect the dots and see where exactly like people's issues were at. Whether it was with just not being paid enough to sustain their family, or just not having citizenship, so being dealt all these disadvantages when it came to everybody else. And I think just working really just like kind of influenced my viewpoint now on how I really view the world. I, I'd say I'm on the left, but I feel like I'm limited as well, because there's so many things that when I was a kid, I still want that now. That are childish ambitions, like having a flashy car, having like nice things, just because you didn't have those things. And I think that's something I need to grow out of. But that's something that I think I'll grow out of. Still in my early 20s, so I feel like I'm limited. But yeah, I honestly see the way I see the world with everything going on. I feel like there needs to be a sense of community among people, and um, I feel like college really shaped how I view everybody, how I view my peers, because a lot of I took time in a nonprofit. I was actually a co-chairman at SF State, and it was like very similar to like a fraternity, but it had an open door policy. Women were allowed. You could leave whenever you wanted. It was more about familia, but we had three pillars: academics, um, community, and social networking. And one thing I really saw amongst like a lot of people who like claim to like come from these neighborhoods, and these impoverished neighborhoods, or came from like these very just working class neighborhoods, and always have like this mentality of I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna educate them because I got my education. And I'm gonna show them how they should be doing things. It was always like a savior mentality, like I was saying, and that kind of really shaped the way I look at it now. Because now it's like, especially now that I've been doing a lot more studying and researching the past since I've been in college, and it's like the Hugh P. Newton. I actually got it from him, and he was talking about when he was in college in the East Bay at Lanny. He was talking about a lot of the organizations on campus, say they're about the community, but they're not really about it. They're more just I wouldn't necessarily say autocrats, but just scholars, just basically arguing amongst themselves and saying, and basically doing community service events to make them feel better, to help their self-esteem and make them feel like they're doing something. And I felt that completely at SF State. And I believe to an extent I feel like I should go back to another approach, because I don't want to attack them and be like, you're doing this wrong. But I think people in higher education and people in institutions who, institutions of power, like college, there's better ways we could gear our energy towards helping the community rather than making it more about doing a one-time event and then just feeling like we're helping out, and then just ending up getting a job and just doing it on the weekends or something. So I feel like there's among my peers, I just feel like a lack of motivation. And that's kind of how I feel. There's a lot of things I personally want to do, but I right now I just want to network and be able to kind of get people together on a community organizing level, and kind of organize my generation, I guess, because I feel like everything else, like the way I view the world is like politically is I think the U.S. of course, like I've studied like all their atrocities and what they've done imperialism wise and everything. I could go on rants for it, but it's the way I view it now is just that there needs to be a change, and it's not as simple as race and everything. Usually comes back to socialism, And I've studied these countries like Cuba and all that, and like, but it's never really been. My personal opinion is it's never really been enacted like fully. And
So I definitely hear what you're saying with regards to sort of from that educated standpoint, kind of coming in from above and kind of look, we know what's wrong with you, so we know what's wrong with your community, so we're going to kind of tell you how to fix it, kind of thing. Even if it's well-meaning, it still comes from the top, right?
yeah,
So I guess I have two questions in light of like the fact that you also mentioned socialism, and if socialism is going to be a possibility, then the working class is going to have to overcome its own divisions and come together. So I guess I'll have kind of a 2-point question, which is first, if you thought how would this work if it was done right? What would it look like? Like if it wasn't being done the wrong way, what would you imagine it would look like if it was being done the right way? Of actually really coming, if you were from the outside and you aren't from the outside, but you're coming back in from the outside, how would that be done right? And secondly, I guess this is a bigger question. Maybe you can take this one up. How do you see it? If socialism is about the working class coming together, how do you imagine the divides between these different gangs get worked out? Like, how do you see them as being able to get through those divisions and being part of a common struggle?
yeah. I'll go ahead and answer the second one just because it's fresh on my mind. If you don't mind, that's fine. I'd say I think it's just like putting a helping hand out there. I think it's not. It may be very cliche, but I think like fighting fire with fire is always not really the best option when you're talking about people who have been like misguided or might view another neighborhood in certain such just because they don't know anything else, and all the ignorance and stereotypes and biases or prejudices that are kind of all tangled up in there are kind of let out just in that small neighborhood. And I think just lending a helping hand because people are so the whole keeping like your head on the swivel and looking over your shoulder is always because there's always somebody who's gonna stab you in the back or or who's a threat. And I think being able to like extend your hand, find a sense of community, I think that's the first step. Being able to give people jobs, and I love the Black Panthers just because I feel like they did a lot of those things, especially in like a city that's super divided by neighborhoods, and that goes through a lot of if anything they go through it worse than Sacramento. So I always like follow after them, and they that's how I do it. I really just like create a sense of community and understand that there can't be like a criminalization of people just because people are just trying to feed themselves or feed their families. And yeah, I think just like creating a sense of community because I think the only thing that can really do that are some type of community organizing or a tragic event, which usually we've seen that with Zoe, the guy who was gunned down by the police in Sacramento on 29th Street. That was actually like right down the street from where I live. I pass through that neighborhood all the time to drop on my nephew at Taekwondo, and he was a gentleman who was he was basically he was followed into his grandma's backyard by Sacramento police. They were basically in pursuit, looking for somebody in the neighborhood, had helicopters. Guess he was, from what they say, he was breaking into cars, and he was in the backyard of his grandmother's home, and he was at the back door, and the police followed him and chased him and shot him and killed him. And they said that he had a gun, but I believe it was his phone. And basically, it caused like a citywide like protest. And a lot of people, I feel like that's one of the first times I really seen people in Sacramento have a sense of community. And that's like one of the few times I've seen people from different neighborhoods kind of just get together and realize, okay, like this is bigger than us. And it was sad because it was at the expense of somebody's life. And at the expense of a little girl not having a father now. So I think that like tragic events or just actual community organizing. So I think people will always hold grudges because of if my family member got killed, I'm always gonna hold a grudge towards those people. It's all on them on how they feel from that loss. So I think like community organizing, like really just helping people out when they need it, letting them know that you have their back in the worst of times, and that goes a huge way because then when things get bad for that for for yourself, or your community organization, or your whatever base you use, the people will have your back. Just because they know you've been there through that. I think people are used to like lies government tell them. The government tells them. You tell them everything. You can tell them you're going to pay for the bills and everything. They're not going to believe it until you actually do something. So I think honestly, like I refer back to them all the time. The Black Panthers, that's why I really admire them, because they were able to do that, and they really gained the trust of the people. I feel like it's specifically within certain neighborhoods within Oakland.
You said something. I'm curious if Daniel, you said something around you were inspired by Che Guevara, you were inspired by the Black Panther movement, you're inspired even by Malcolm X. Do you see yourself, and also organizing, where do you see yourself organizing politically? How do you see yourself in the fabric of our society? Where do you see yourself organizing politically?
Okay.
In a union, as an activist out on the streets, helping your community out in a specific, like an immigrant community, or going back home and becoming a teacher, if that is what you think, that is what what organizing looks like. I don't know, right? I'm just curious. How do you see yourself organizing politically?
It's been shaped by my peers, but as well just the people I've come across my journey. And I think I've realized I can't do everything. And I think at a certain point everybody realizes that. So I kind of want to be somebody who more on the lines of community organizing, and what I mean by that, I'm meaning that specifically with like my businesses. I majored in business because it was something I just thought would be expendable at that time. I never really I thought I'd be in the position I am in now, but I can understand why it led to it. And what I really want to do after this, after school, basically is just invest in like my own business. I actually run a taquero business. Like I was saying, my mom's a sous chef. She taught me everything. I worked under the line with her for a few years, and I actually love cooking. So I want to open up my own business, but I want to be able to hire people within the community and make sure they're paid so that they only have one job. Just because I see so many people who have two jobs, and that's the main reason you can't really focus on your kids. Or that's not the main reason, but it's one of the big reasons as to why kids fall into the wrong groups, or fall into the hands of or fall into gangs, or fall into drugs, because their parents aren't there. Their parents are just working to pay the bills. So if they see that, they're obviously not going to want to go down that route. And I think being able to have time with your kids and talk to them and explain things to them that they get confused about is huge, especially for people of color, people from working class neighborhoods, because you understand that your situation is not what's broadcasted to the world. What you get on TV, everybody on the TV show or the news might be white, or they might be somebody you can't identify with. And
what do you think should be done about that? I'm curious, just from your perspective, in your experiences, what do you think should be done about that?
About
for example, you mentioned that families they're not able to raise their children, right? Because in your situation, sometimes parents are working, or there's a single parent household, no? Or kids are going out to be gangs because of a sense of belonging or a sense of needing respect. What do you personally think that needs to be done as a society because of these things that happen in some neighborhoods, like your neighborhood, in neighborhoods here like in Sunnyvale in San Francisco? What do you think should be done?
I think people should be provided with like equal, just being able to make equal dispensable income, into which they're just not focused about surviving. I think that's the biggest step that a lot of people have. Everybody's just going to play a catch-up game. If that's the case, people from lower, like my neighborhood, like Sunnydale, they need to be able to pay their bills and get out the situations they're in. Or else it's a cycle. So they need to have jobs that pay enough. And a lot of the times that's not the case, because, these people are usually working for huge companies, working for the city, and the people who are getting paid out are people who run it, people who are CEOs or are in those positions because it's a high network of just I wouldn't necessarily say privilege, but just the people who of hierarchy and leadership in politics that allow those people to get in those positions. I think that's the first thing, just being able to get people out of survival, get people into actually living. That's like getting them from survival mindset to actually living. That's a huge step, and I think.
How do you think we can achieve that? How do you think we can achieve that, Daniel?
I think by having a collective of businesses that are understanding that it's a community, not a business to make as much profits as you can, but rather to support the people and support the people who basically make the business, make the products. And that's what I want to do. I want to open a business where people get paid enough and understand businesses that, or just work with businesses that take part in similar actions and are able to contribute funds to certain community needs or, investments that will further benefit the community. Because it's the state's not going to do it. I'm not going to rely on the city or the state or, the government, because it's already been showcased, plenty of times that they aren't gonna save people of color, people within these communities, or
but not to put faith in the government.
To lose faith, or
not to put faith, or to put all of our eggs into the basket of the election year, no?
Yeah,
is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Because those are things that have been just consecutively, just thrown in our face when we have put our faith in it. People are tired of it at this point. It's generations. People are used to this. Generation after generation of just not having a system that doesn't support you, that doesn't try to give you your liberties, your freedom to live just equally or equitably, just like everybody else. And there's no.
Yeah.
I personally wouldn't put my faith in it.
In government and elected officials.
Yeah, like I play ball. I play ball, but I'm not gonna put my faith in there just because. Personally, me, I just don't see any benefit out of it. There's so much evidence of it not working that I personally just don't. I don't see it for my business. I wouldn't see it like that, and I wouldn't put my employees or the people I'm taking care of, because eventually with my business, I want to be able to buy. There's a lot of apartment complexes that are low income in Sacramento that are super cheap, that are just horrible. My brother actually grew up in. My brother was living in like multiple of them, and I see crazy things there, and like people who barely had enough to eat. But I actually want to buy some of those once I do get enough money, and kind of basically that'd be a place to house my employees and be able to provide resources and things that they need for their kids, as well as like ways into which they could grow wealth. But at the same time, I'm not at the wealth part yet, because I don't want them to grow into
I understand.
Some rich folks.
Daniel, I have another question for you. So you plan to be like a mom and pop shop, no? Like a business, right? Something that supports the community, right? You try to do something like that. Do you think it's difficult? It's difficult. It's challenging, don't you think, when you see many of the mom and pop shops, even now, as we're seeing during COVID-19, how they're being shut down and they're not necessarily being supported by the government because of, the capitalist interest is there mostly to support those who are monopolizing the market, and that is bigger. Those are bigger chains, no? Do you think like a business like yours would be able to survive during COVID-19, this pandemic? I mean, you said you live in Outer Mission, no?
Yeah.
You know the Excelsior, right?
Yeah.
I know the Excelsior quite well. So many of those businesses are now shutting down. They're going bankrupt. And many of those businesses have employed for generations their beloved employees. And I'm just curious, do you think that given our situation, given how fragile this system is for folks like you who want to try to develop something within the system, do you think that capitalism is sustainable for a business like yours that you want to try to create that is worker friendly, according to you? I'm curious.
I'd say like launching it in itself right now, with everything going on, I think is very difficult.
Yeah.
If a business prepares itself for that. I think, yeah, it is just because you're slowly just preparing yourself for, I think it's important for people to slowly prepare their people or their employees or their community with the skills or skills that they would need, in a time of radical change. And I understand, I fallen in love with the idea of revolution and like romanticize like all these ideas, but that was like when I was 18. The way I view it is completely different now. To the point I don't romanticize any of it because that'll just lead me to a dead end.
To be clear, what do you mean you don't romanticize? Romanticize
like that,
what?
like the idea of like Che Guevara or
Oh.
like the people or like these characters just because they're humans. They're humans. They're not these invincible leaders that did no wrong. And I think the ideas as well, like the idea of revolution or, radical revolution, I think those things are, I don't want to romanticize that because it might not come in my lifetime. But what I want to do is prepare people for it, when those things happen. I think a lot of businesses didn't expect this. They don't expect it because a lot of these businesses don't view it as I'm preparing for my community. They're just small mom and pop businesses, and they just don't prepare for it. And how can you really, with something like this? So I think this event in itself, something like a pandemic, is very difficult. It's really hindered my plans, honestly, with how I want to move about it, but as well as giving me motivation to see where I could kind of get into community organizing wise, and be able to still follow what I want to do, but as well be able to do it, cook food, and as well provide for people.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of that's kind of where I'm going, because it honestly this whole thing, like I said, has been such a curveball. Like
Yeah.
Everything I had planned is different, but that's life. So where I fit myself.
I'm curious why you think that you don't you stop romanticizing or you stop thinking about socialism. I'm just curious from your standpoint. Why is that? Is there something that you've read in history? Is there some disillusionment? Is there something that has given you false hope? Something in history or something even currently? Or have you seen other governments, the way that they behave with their citizens under the name of socialism? Is there something around that that you might have felt? Is that why you stopped romanticizing? Maybe you can expand on that.
Well, I stopped romanticizing it just because I felt like it gave into feelings rather than actually using like logic and ethics and things that are needed to kind of govern people.
What do you mean?
What I mean by that is just like I kind of think of like Cuba or Venezuela or countries where people are like, oh, I was oppressed, and I understand there's several factors as to why people can't get resources, including the U.S. It's very complicated situations, but I just didn't romanticize it just because, like I was saying, like a lot of the people, not necessarily socialism, but just not romanticizing the the radical change, because then when that happens, what comes after? And it's just people. I don't want to romanticize it as a leader because then I romanticize it to everybody else that doesn't didn't know anything about socialism before I talked to them about it, or didn't know anything about these issues before I talked to them about it, or how their situation is really a part of this big institution and all these various aspects that are why you are in the situation you are in. I don't want to be that type of leader. And I think owning a business is you're in a leadership position. I don't want to be that type of leader for a community and give them a means to end, because the struggle is I can't promise somebody an end, to the struggle that I'm going to do all this. All I can provide is that we're working towards this common goal. And, I actually got it from Newton, PP Newton. And, I just don't want to provide them with a means to end, because then they fall in love with that. And once they get that, and if they don't, you basically give them like a goal. And if they don't get that goal, if they don't get that means to end that you promised them, then they lost all faith in everything you said. So I don't want to.
Yeah, there is a problem with romanticizing figures, no, like Stalin
Yeah, like
or
figures.
North
Yeah.
Korea figures or Fidel Castro or Che Guevara or even the late what's his name Chavez. There is a problem with that. But as far as socialism in itself, do you think that there is a problem with socialism versus capitalism? I'm curious because it is something that you said that you were sort of, I think, delving into or interested in somewhat, no?
Yeah. No, I think socialism in itself, like the study of it and all the things I've kind of got from it from my readings. I don't. There's I wouldn't say any like flaws. Of course, there's, but put into the context of like our human world and just humans and like the way our societies are structured. Of course, like all the flaws come out because they've all been constructed by everything that's happened. And now, for the most part, that's a big chunk of it is capitalism and authoritarianism and totalitarian governments and various things can go with it. But I think the ideas within themselves, no, but I believe the way they have been implemented or the way people try to implement them or say they're going to implement them within our current societies, there's lots of problems. I don't know. It's like, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I think you're touching on some points. I love what you've said so far. I think your experiences have given you a lot of may I say, maybe a sense of false hope into this government that you feel like you need to sort of take care of people within a system like a business to be able to take care of employees, no?
I don't have faith in our government. I don't believe in them. But at the same time, I know how to play ball, and I understand, the politics that go with it.
Yeah.
I think that's how I personally feel, but as well, how I would maneuver through that is very different. Just because I want to make sure my goal is met, or I want to make sure I'm basically sowing the seeds, or I'm making sure that my people are taken care of. But at the same time, there's so much you have to play ball. As a business, I have to sell things to a community, and in a sense, you could say that's exploiting. But I have to make sure what I'm selling is benefiting the community. I have to, but I still have to play ball at the end of the day within their society, within a capitalist country. Would I be able to do this in another country? Probably no, but at the same time, to get where I want to go and to better people's situations, I feel like I have to take advantage of the situation I'm in, just being in the United States. But for sure, it's like it always goes back to like my cousin. He had a cousin that he actually he lived in San Francisco. He was a bouncer, and he had a tattoo from a Mac Dre song, super like popular rapper in the Bay Area, and it was called the game is thick, and I always refers to like it's just like the game of life, and we've always referred to it as like correlated back to like capitalism. It's thick, and what it means is just like it's very treacherous. It's not simple. You can get sunk in, and it's complex. Like it's so I always refer to that album when I think of just like playing ball and like being stuck in like or being in the capitalist like world because you have to play ball. We all have to pay bills and we all have to make ends meet, and or else.
Yeah.
I guess I have a question about how you look at the moment right now. We've talked actually a lot about it on What's Left. We talked about there's talk about a virus and the health problems with regard or the health concerns people have around that. There's the division of wealth taking place with regards to in the context of an economic collapse, and then there's the state and the role it's been playing in terms of keeping people quarantined and separated. How do you look at this moment right now? What is your biggest concern? What are the things that you see happening right now? How do you understand, kind of the motion of the world right now?
It's for sure a big question, but it's a lot honestly. I think as like a graduating senior, all the things I loved about, or all the things I was looking forward to with the summer, I kind of had to, just put them in the bag and, wait till this thing's fully over to celebrate with my loved ones, nobody graduated from college in my family, so I was like, I was super excited for this graduation, have my family be there, so, I feel a little disappointed, but as well, um, all those, all those, all those very personal and like, super like, um, super selfish events. I kind of threw out the window, or I kind of forgot about them through the second week of this. And it's a lot, what's going on in the world. You have all this going on, and so much more going on behind the scenes. And
Can you say what you think is going on behind the scenes?
oh yeah, like with the oil, this the U.S. basically preparing itself for war with China, and as well as just Venezuela kind of going down the drain with just because of the oil wars and the oil prices. And then as well, just the corporations too, kind of what they're taking. Everybody's taking advantage of the situation and kind of seeing where they can get their where they could profit from, where they could get their piece of cake or their piece of pie from. And you just see it everywhere. So you see like corporations like Bill Gates, investing himself in vaccines and all these various things. The corporations getting all these tax cuts and all this money bailouts, and I think it's a lot. I think for sure it's a lot considering. I mean, I go on social media and I just scroll up and you just see so much within it, along with a bunch of probably twice as much pointless things mixed within it. I feel like the feeling is overwhelmed. But like the things y'all were talking about like 2 episodes ago about the vaccines. You're talking about just like basically the politics going around that. Of just like vaccines, the people not working together, or countries not working together to ensure that this health issue goes away, or this health crisis goes away. It's more of just like the politics of seeing who can benefit, who can get more power, who can get leverage on the other, and it's just like so much politics behind it, and I don't know. I think at this moment one just feels like helpless. You can't organize, you can't protest. I think the fact that so many people are on unemployment is just going to change. Kind of reminds me of of 2008, 2009. People scrambling for jobs, trying to get what they can, and just really, I feel like more people are going to be cornered into this survival mentality, and if it's not survival, everything else is on consumerism, and that's just going to be filled with what we see on social media all the time, a bunch of things to keep us distracted. I feel helpless because that's how I feel. A lot of people are going to survival mode when.
I was going to ask the second question of, do you feel hopeful about the future or pessimistic? You might have answered that. But is there anything you do have hope in? Like, to the extent, because obviously you're not giving up, so you're probably feeling the same. I'm feeling very down right now about the prospects of change, of positive change. Honestly, I think it's been made much more difficult on us. But if you were to have hope, or if you were going to have hope in something, what would that be?
I'd say in people's willingness to help each other. I think crises bring out a lot of bad in people. But as well, I think a lot of people start to realize that they need to help each other out. I think about Latin America a lot because me and Kenny talked about it with coworkers. We've had a conversation before where we'll talk about our parents, they come from these countries, and a lot of like countries in Latin America are war ravaged, impoverished, and then and don't have a sense of security from the government, and they live with all of this going on. Yet it's cultures that have lots of fun because they throw really good parties.
Made lemon syrup.
We make lemonade with the lemons and syrup. We make some real-life lemonade basically. And like I think back to that, and it reminds me. That's what I'm hopeful for because I've seen like my mom work 50 hours a week and still come home and make food and still try to like provide a future for me and my brothers, and that type of like commitment and just dedication. I think people within the documented community for sure have that, and I believe as well a lot of other communities that are gonna feel it. I think people are selfish, but as well I have hope in having sense communities that people can go to, just like what Kenny's doing, communities like that or like Calma, and those things are huge. And I think it goes to show like people could be on their phone at home not doing a thing, but they're out here helping people who really need it, who are essentially helpless, and that's why I have hope. And I feel hopeless now, but it's just I'm at home too, so if I go outside, maybe.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have anything else. I do have to run soon. I gotta go do some food drops right now.
I'm good, actually. I think that's a lot you put out there. So
yeah, no, it was. Sorry about that. So many like.
It's great. Like this is what's beyond what I expected. Honestly, I really want to thank you for participating. And like sharing your experience. And I think there's a lot of good things that we heard here, different angles. And I don't know, we might have you back someday.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Interested, yeah.
Eduardo, you're going to sign us off. We're going to sign off, but don't leave the thing, because I'll tell you a few things are going to happen after that.
All right, let's end it. So that does it for this week's episode. What's Left is a weekly political podcast / channel challenging the mainstream left. We post information about our topics and our guests on the episode notes, wherever you found this episode on our blog. We're at what-s-left.webnode.com. You can find this past episodes on there. And I remind folks, if anyone likes what they have heard here, please share your favorite episode, rate, review, and subscribe to any of our 5 platforms on iTunes Podcast, Stitcher, Google Play, Bitchute, or YouTube. And if you would like to give us feedback, please contact us, or something to cover, please let us know. That does it. I'm Eduardo Barco with Andy Lipson and Kenny Cepeda, and our listener, Daniel. Thank you, Daniel, for this interview.
Thank you, Daniel.